Let's get started. So hello, everyone. Welcome. And thank you very much for joining Dragon Trail International for our last webinar of 2022. We are very excited to share with you today the results of our latest Chinese Traveler Sentiment Survey and discuss what those results mean for marketing and product development. My name is Sienna Prulis-Cook, and I'm Dragon Trail's Director of Marketing and Communications. Joining me today from Beijing is Dragon Trail's research analyst, Yelinur Karabiek, or Nunu. Our agenda today is very straightforward. I'm going to be starting with an update on the latest news and updates in China regarding COVID policy and travel restrictions. And then we're going to get right into the findings of our latest Chinese Traveler Sentiment Survey, which includes things like attitudes surrounding travel, destination safety and outbound destination preference, attitudes towards quarantine on arrival, and issues about environmental sustainability and many more things. Our presentation should actually be pretty brief today. We will aim to wrap up in around 30 minutes or maybe even less, and that will give us plenty of time for Q&A. So you can send in your questions at any point during the webinar by using the Q&A button on your Zoom control panel, and we will aim to answer as many as we can at the end of the webinar. Another thing that I wanted to note is that in today's webinar, we're going to be sharing a lot of data and charts, but you don't need to worry about writing everything down or taking screenshots, because we will be sending out today's presentation slides as well as a link to a recording of the webinar to all attendees later today. So you'll have all of those materials for your own reference or to share with anyone who you think might be interested but couldn't attend the live webinar today. So before we get started, I'd like to give a very brief introduction to Dragon Trail International for any of you who might not know us. We are a marketing solutions agency with a deep expertise in the travel industry and in China, where we're headquartered. Our services include market research and strategy consulting, B2B and B2C digital marketing, virtual and hybrid events, and market representation services. We're proud to work with leading tourism brands and businesses all around the world, including destinations, airlines, attractions, hotels, and more. You can find more information about who our clients are, case studies of our work, and more detailed information about the services we provide, as well as lots of free resources on trends in Chinese digital marketing and tourism on our website. Since 2019, our research division, Dragon Trail Research, has been providing specialized data to the travel industry through consumer and trade surveys, bespoke research projects, and focus groups. Organizations and businesses that have used Dragon Trail's research services include Tour España, the Singapore Tourism Board, the Macau Government Tourism Organization, TTG Asia, and the World Bank. So there have been a lot of changes recently to China's COVID policies, both for daily life and in terms of international travel. And I'd like to give an update on the latest news before we present the findings from our survey. There were already changes to China's quarantine on arrival policy and visa policy over the summer. And these kinds of changes and developments continued into the autumn. We started to see the formation of a COVID exit plan by China's CDC. Hong Kong opened up, China held its 20th National Party Congress, and there were a number of high-level in-person international political meetings, both in China and with Xi Jinping traveling overseas. On November 11th, China announced a revised set of COVID regulations that further shortened the quarantine on arrival period down to 5 days in a quarantine hotel, followed by 3 days at home. And they also canceled the circuit breaker aviation policy, which had previously led to so many canceled flights. Then things took a dramatic turn a few weeks ago as China was facing rapidly rising infection numbers and protests against COVID restrictions were held around the country. Following a weekend of protests at the end of November, the official strategy and narrative changed very quickly, and the zero COVID policy has basically been abandoned at this point. An accelerated vaccination policy, especially targeting China's elderly, is being rolled out now, and Chinese officials and media are stressing the mildness of the Omicron variant. Interprovincial travel restrictions were dropped last week, and it's no longer necessary to show a green health code in venues like airports, train stations, tourist attractions, and theaters. International travel policy has not changed since the announcements on November 11th. However, there are a lot of rumors going around now online and including in the media that the international quarantine on arrival policy could be further reduced to a 2+3 model starting as early as next week, and that hotel quarantine could be abolished absolutely by the beginning of January. Now, so far, there have been no official announcements about this, but we will keep you updated when anything official is announced. Investors and the travel industry are expecting China to reopen in 2023. And previously, the kind of optimistic estimate was that this could happen by the spring. However, given the rapid pace of change just in the last couple of weeks, it's now possible that this could happen even earlier. You can check Dragon Trail's blog for regularly updated information as we receive it. Now, in the meantime, let's find out what Chinese consumers had to say with the results of our latest Chinese traveler sentiment survey. And I will turn over to Nunu to get started.
Okay, hi everybody, I'm Nunu, the research analyst from Dragon Trail. Firstly, I want to give some background on this report. This is the 6th semi-annual survey of Chinese travelers that Dragon Trail has done since the start of the pandemic. We have been publishing reports twice a year since March 2020. This time, the survey was conducted in November and includes response from more than 1,000 mainland Chinese who have interest or experience in traveling. Of these, around 46% have previously traveled internationally. The survey sample was controlled to be statistically representative in terms of age and gender, and focused on respondents in first-tier, new first-tier, and second-tier Chinese cities across the country. Okay, let's start by presenting overall travel sentiment and comparing how this has changed in the past 2 years. Even though there were still strict lockdowns and severe domestic travel restrictions when we conducted this survey in November, we can still see a continuing and a significant increase on sentiment around eager to travel. The percentage of people eager to travel account for 42%, which more than doubled since 2021. In addition, sentiment around won't travel has fallen by 8 percentage points comparing with March, but still make up 48%, which are nearly half of the travelers. To find out the reasons, we can move on to the next page. Analyzing the key words and phrases that survey respondents use most when explaining their sentiments towards travel, we can see that safety concern, quarantine, strict policies, and inconvenience are the main barriers for those who won't travel. So once the restriction relaxed, they are likely to have more people get interested into traveling again. For those who are eager to travel, many said They have made their destination list already and are looking forward to traveling longer distance. The restrictions on movement have made them realize the importance of traveling, which are relaxing mind, relieving stress, and seeing the world. In addition, some mentioned natural scenery and the cultural experience are especially appealing for them now. Other travelers who want to be cautious prefer to travel in the nearby area, choose safer destination, and control the frequency and the days of the trip. In fact, as we mentioned in the beginning, there have been dramatically changes regarding the COVID policies and domestic travel restrictions within the last 2 weeks. As a result of the policy changes, now there seems to be two groups of people with different attitudes towards traveling. Some people have already started to plan and prepare for their next trip, while others seem still a bit scared of the virus and not yet used to the ability to travel freely. We see this difference in cities which have already experienced mass COVID outbreaks such as Beijing, Guangzhou, Shanghai, and Xinjiang. In these locations, the number of people who are eager to travel is quite high, while in other cities which have not yet experienced COVID outbreaks, there is still some fear around the virus. So they haven't yet begun to consider travel for leisure. Since the consumer sentiment highlights the impact of China's restriction, let's have a close look at Chinese travelers' attitudes towards China's quarantine on arrival. The result indicates that the attitude has shifted considerably, with 59% wanting the policy to be relaxed, with an increase of 20% points since the spring. Meanwhile, the proportion of survey respondents who would like to see even stricter quarantine measure continues to shrink, down to 17% compared to 36% in September 2021 and 28% in March 2022. Since the policy has changed during the time when we did the survey in November, which is the quarantine period reduced, it seems like it might be reduced more in the near future. I believe this also have influenced people's attitude and make people more positive around the overseas traveling. Even if restrictions on outbound travel were dropped, how likely would Chinese consumers to take an international trip? Overall, the result is positive, with 17% of travelers likely to travel as soon as once the travel restrictions are lifted. Over half, which is 52%, would plan to travel outside mainland China within 1 year, and 84% would plan the trip within 2 years of reopening. However, 60% of respondents state that they won't travel outside mainland China. In addition, our results also show a gender difference, with women are more likely than men to plan on traveling as soon as restrictions are relaxed. We may ask the travelers what their purpose for their next trip outside mainland China would be. Local experience become the most popular activities, with 60% of all choose trying local food and around 57% choose experiencing local lifestyles. Also, beach and seaside destinations are on the wish list for more than half of the survey respondents, following with visiting landmarks such as museums and iconic architecture with nearly 46%. Outbound destination marketing should pay more attention to these themes to seize Chinese travelers' attention. Now I would like to invite Sienna back and give you some more interesting findings. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nunu. So now moving on to the next slide is about outbound destination perceptions. So since March of 2021, we've been asking our survey respondents to rate a number of outbound destinations, choosing whether the destination is safe to visit, unsafe to visit, or whether they're unsure about the destination. And Comparing the results of our November survey with the results of our March 2022 survey earlier this year, we can find that the all 15 destinations on the list are now perceived as less unsafe. Notably, Hong Kong, Australia, Canada, and Israel, their unsafety rating dropped each by around 10 percentage points. However, on the whole, we can see that the number of survey respondents who said that they were unsure about the destinations really increased almost for every destination. So this shows us that there is a lot of uncertainty about outbound destinations, and travelers aren't necessarily sure what to think about them. And this creates a really big opportunity to do more in terms of marketing, publicity, and education. In fact, it was only Hong Kong that saw a significant increase in the number of survey respondents that said it was a safe destination to travel to compared to the March survey. In the November survey, 47% said that Hong Kong was safe to visit, up from just 37% in March. Finally, at the bottom of the list here, we have the US, which has been ranked as the most unsafe destination in every survey that we've ever done. However, on a positive note, right now, the results of the US being chosen by 67% of survey respondents as unsafe and 7% as safe is actually a big improvement over September 2021, when 87% of survey respondents said that the US was unsafe to visit and only 2% said that it was safe. So now let's take a look at where Chinese travelers say that they would most like to travel first if restrictions allowed. Now, Hong Kong not only improved its safety perceptions since March, but it also moved up on this list from the #2 spot in March up to the #1 spot now. However, overall, looking at this list compared to previous surveys that we've done, the list of preferred outbound destinations has not changed super dramatically. As you can see, apart from France, all of the destinations in the top 10 list are in the Asia Pacific region, with Australia being the most long-haul destination after France. One thing that has changed about these survey results compared to the survey in March is that Macau and Taiwan are now on the top 10 list. Actually, when we look at pre-pandemic Chinese travel in 2019, around half of all outbound travel from the Chinese mainland was to the Greater China destinations of Hong Kong, Macau, and Taiwan. And around 90% of all outbound travel from mainland China was within Asia. So this list of top 10 preferred outbound destinations should not come as a huge surprise. And we do expect that when Chinese travelers start traveling outbound again, it's likely that for the majority, their first outbound trip will be within Asia. Now, one new topic for our survey this time is sustainable travel. Now, obviously, sustainable travel is a big topic in tourism right now, but the phrase sustainable travel is a fairly nebulous one, and we wanted to find out what it means for Chinese travelers. So in our survey, only 11.4% of survey respondents admitted that they really didn't consider the human impact of travel on local environments and communities. And looking at the intentions of Chinese travelers to be more sustainable in the future, it was most likely that they would choose accommodation with environmentally friendly operations, such as water conservation and waste reduction. And it was also popular to choose only cruelty-free ways to see wild animals. Also interesting is that almost 38% said that they would like to do something while traveling to personally contribute to the local environment. This could include something like planting trees, picking up litter, or cycling instead of driving a car. And I think this creates a really nice opportunity for DMCs, tour operators, or hotels to start offering activities to Chinese guests to allow them to positively impact the local environment as an activity when they travel. We would strongly recommend issuing certificates of completion for these kinds of activities and providing good photo opportunities to make them more attractive to the Chinese consumers and also help to spread even more consciousness about sustainable travel in the Chinese market. Now, in terms of product preferences for travel products for Chinese travelers, actually the results of our survey in November looking at the top 3 product preferences are almost exactly the same as the results of our March 2022 survey. So this is very helpful if you are designing travel products for the Chinese market. Affordable pricing, health and safety, and convenience were all chosen by 60% or more of survey respondents. Now, finally, the last survey result to present is about where Chinese consumers find information about their travel destinations. And digital sources here are by far the most popular, especially Chinese social media channels such as WeChat, Weibo, Xiaohongshu, and Bilibili, followed by travel websites and OTAs, and then travel blogs and KOLs. If you are looking to optimize your Chinese digital marketing to get ready for the recovery of this market, Dragon Trail has extensive expertise in managing social media accounts and developing online campaigns, organizing media buy for travel websites and OTAs, and arranging partnerships with KOLs. So please do let us know if you're specifically interested in any of those topics or would like to see case studies of our past work. As I mentioned earlier, we will be sending out, or maybe I forgot to mention this earlier, but along with the presentation slides and the recording of today's webinar, we are also going to be sending everyone the full Chinese traveler sentiment report. And you should expect to receive all of that information by the end of the day today, UK time. However, if you cannot wait to read the full report and you want it earlier, we are going to be publishing it on the resources section of the Dragon Trail website immediately following this webinar. So you'll be able to read the whole thing and download it there. Also, on the same resources section of the Dragon Trail website, you will be able to find our previous sentiment reports. You can rewatch videos of previous webinars and find lots of other helpful information on Chinese travel and digital marketing trends. Please do follow us on social media, on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook for regular updates. And if you haven't already signed up for our newsletter, you can do that to receive the biggest news every month, as well as future webinar invitations. So thank you so much, everyone. I know it was a quite brief presentation, but now we're ready to take your questions in the Q&A section. And I wanted to start by not sharing my screen so that you can see us more. Well, I'll figure that out, but in the meantime, I wanted to ask a question to Nunu, which is, it's kind of a personal question, but you have been in Beijing over the last couple of weeks, which have obviously been weeks of very big change in China in terms of COVID policies. And I just wondered if you could talk a little bit to share how that experience has been.
Okay, so I personally based in Beijing, and I already got the virus and not almost recovered. Most of the people around me are also experiencing the virus now. So the city is quite quiet now. The street, the tube station, the shop malls, the office are quite empty. But I believe once most people recovered from the COVID, it will be busy again soon. And I'm one of those who is ready to start plan for the New Year trip with my friends. So people are even saying like now it's the best time to get the COVID, so their Christmas and New Year's plans won't be influenced. But for like overseas traveling, it seems still a bit challenging now, because I heard like the Germany and Italy visa application center have announced like a notice they're gonna close for a while due to the COVID outbreak in Beijing, and the overall outbound travel restrictions haven't relaxed yet. But I would suggest the destination to closely follow up the policy changes and start to promote now, because like people like me can't wait to travel.